Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Minority Reportz podcast and digital series. I am your host, Mona Sheikh. You guys, I don't know why I look like my face is a little beaten up today. Maybe it is. It has been an interesting day for me. Anyways, gonna get to it. I have a very special guest today. He's so funny. I've known him for a number of years now. We have become friends. He's just besides being hilarious, is just a wonderful human being. You can tell his mama raised him well. My very talented and hilarious friend, Dilo, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Not showing up on Capitol Hill and breaking into a federal building. How about yourself?
Oh my good God. That's such a shit show, man.
Wow.
Such a shit show. Wow. It's out of control. It's not surprising, as so many people know, but what a thing.
Yeah. Tim, who's an avid fan of mine, said impeach the orange ape immediately. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know if you heard about this, but I mean, there are just so many stories that are coming out, right? On Instagram, some hero started an Instagram page, on Instagram account, rather, naming all the people who went and naming them and basically notifying their companies that they work for and getting them fired from their jobs.
Wow, that is
that
is the right thing to do. That is our hero, Instagram hero.
Agree. 100,000%. Now, I know you have been working on a bunch of stuff because we've been talking about it, but you know what? One of your things that I was watching on YouTube that I loved, and I didn't know this part of your story, is you did a thing for like Pride Parade. It was for the LGBTQ Center where you told three different stories about coming out. Like they were all different coming out stories. And one was just funnier than the next, and I just loved it so much. But you're of Sri Lankan descent. I don't know. Were you born and raised there, or were you?
No, I was born in Queens.
You were born in Queens.
Yeah, born in Queens and raised here in Lancaster.
Got it. I mean, what made your parents go? You know what, Queens, not ethnic enough. Let's move to Lancaster.
I know, what a trip. I was like, what made them move to this desert? They're islanders. What made them move to this hot desert with Joshua trees and a bunch of white hicks? I mean, at that time, Lancaster wasn't even like it is now, right? Like it was like tumbleweeds and stop signs.
Dang.
Yeah.
Your parents were just like, that is a good option.
Yeah, they were like, yeah. No, it was, my father is a doctor, and it was his people. So his, like people who had taken that all island exam that during America's brain drain, that kind of looked out for one another. And so one of his batchmates, as they like to call them, told him that there were jobs out in Lancaster. And so So it's so crazy is that in California, I actually don't know very many communities that were that thick, like a little Sri Lanka almost in Lancaster. So we called it Sri Lancaster because it was like all the people that knew each other on the island and were in the medical profession, they were there. So we had a tight knit community.
Wow.
So yeah.
Sri Lancaster, huh?
Sri Lancaster.
That's like Tehrangeles in Westwood. That's what Westwood is. Tehrangeles. There's so many Persians here.
Yep.
It's just Tehrangeles. It's funny how the names come around. I mean, so you're born in Queens, and then what age do you move to Lancaster?
I think I was really young, like 2 or something like that. And then, and so we were raised out there until college, but pretty much now nobody's there. Like there's still some of our, like the parents are there, but people are like moving their kids out or they've left. Like a lot of the folks that we knew even moved to LA, but then they would work in Lancaster. So they would do the reverse commute.
Damn, that's a long commute. That's a long commute. Wow.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, it's funny because, like I always tell people, like, for us, we kind of always knew that racism exists, but not just like regular ass racism. Like because Lancaster, a lot of people don't know this, that's where the KKK established its first West Coast church.
Jesus.
Yeah. So like that you felt it pulsing even back then. And like my father would tell us about like patients that he had that were neo-Nazis and stuff like that. Like, and so, as a kid, you're just like, oh, that's what it is. Like that's, like our parents wouldn't let us go to white people's houses because part of the worry was that like, they didn't know if anything was going to happen to us,
Holy shit, dude, that's crazy.
So yeah, I mean, like eventually, like we made like one friend who was white, and they were not in the KKK. No, but like
vetted. They were vetted.
Yeah, they were vetted. They liked brown peoples. But yeah, like that was the whole story out there. So the stuff that's happening now, like some people like, I can't believe. I'm like, Lancaster is just an hour away. If people over the past 4 or 5 years, they were like, I didn't know Orange County, or I didn't know, like, you're like, come on, like,
where have you been? I've been in LA. Yeah, I've been in LA for a little over 10 years, and just like I had heard about Orange County, and then I remember trying to party there one night, and we went. No, fuck no. We were in Costa Mesa. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're in Costa Mesa. It's me and 2 other brown girlfriends. Okay. And it was my birthday. And they were like, we're going to party in Costa Mesa. And I was like, all right, let's try Costa Mesa. I don't fucking know. Yo, we show up to this bar. First of all the places were packed. And it's just full of bunch of white people, right? There's not a lot of diversity. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But they seem to have a problem with us. Like, so I remember going to a bar and they were like staring at us as if we had fucking horns coming out of our goddamn foreheads. And I was just like, where are we? Like, what is this strange place? But I mean, Orange County, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you heard, but Orange County went blue for the first time. Mainly because now, there's such a massive Middle Eastern and Asian and South Asian.
Super duper immigrants.
Super duper immigrants. So it's very like immigrant heavy, which I'm sure the white peoples there are not really liking it.
Yeah. Though I remember Atsuko, do you know Atsuko comic?
Yeah, I know.
So Atsuko is doing this special for somebody, and she and Ryan went out there and to sort of go undercover during a Trump rally. And a lot of the people who were being pro-Trumpers were Asian American, because it's OC. And so they were like, in some ways we thought that it would be weird that I was there, but then when we realized that a lot of people were Asian, it's almost like that was even a better foil.
Right? They're just blending right in. They're like, oh, one of the Asian Trump supporters is here. Welcome, MAGA, make American. fucking go to school again. I don't know. I mean, Jesus Christ. I'm listening to your story. I've had friends who grew up in Long Beach, and they tell me stories of watching KKK parades right in the middle of Long Beach, right?
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine what that's like. I've never witnessed one, and I fucking fuck that. I never want to witness one. But I mean, when you went to school, was it a very like Sri Lankan heavy, or was it mixed? And
No. Like school was kind of like, it's so crazy because, our community is Tamil, Sri Lankan. So a lot of us are mostly Hindu, and then we also have Christians and Catholics. And when we went to at that time, especially because these were immigrants really invested in this upward mobility, they were like, we can't afford to let our children have a shitty education. Mm-hmm. And they didn't trust the public schools at that time as well. And they had the money to afford private schooling. So all these Hindu kids would be going to Baptist schools.
Wow.
So, I grew up, like, I accepted Jesus into my heart twice because
Jesus is a homie, man.
I love me some Jesus. I have Christians who are so, like, former Christians who are, like, so anti-Jesus. And I'm like, in my opinion, Jesus is a dope motherfucker. And also the same, like, we saw, like, our style of Hinduism is that we have every single God from every religion on the altars. So it's like, Jesus was a personal friend of mine. But I always talk about how I was like so afraid of going to hell that I accepted Jesus into my heart 2 times.
Wow.
Because I was like,
you wanted to make sure if the first time
exactly. I was like, I'm not playing here. I heard hell is really hot, and Lancaster is hot enough.
Yeah, you're like, I mean, it's kind of like Lancaster, but a little harder.
Exactly.
It's a fucking Jesus Christ. You know, I get brought out to Lancaster to headline this show at this bar. I don't know if you've ever done this bar show. The comedian who books it is a really nice guy. And I remember the first time I went to headline a show there was this white male comic, straight, of course, was up there making fun of Muslims, making fun of gays, making fun of women. I mean, he was just touching everybody, right? So I'm saying to myself, does this motherfucker know that I'm the headliner? Like, does he even know?
Yeah, you must have had a field day.
He knows. Like, you know, a brown woman a brown woman is going to go up there, who happens to be Muslim, is going to go up there and headline the fucking show. Like, how is he running his mouth right now? Nope. And I remember sitting back there and I was just like, I can either go up and fucking destroy him because I'm the fucking, you know, I'm the headliner. So who gives a fuck? I can fucking go after him. Or I can come from a place of love and understanding, as Jesus would. This was my like come to Jesus moment. And I had truly, it was like channeling Jesus. And I was like, or I can just go up there and be really funny, be very likable, you know, and just show this a fucking ignoramus, another side of, you know, a Muslim that he's probably never seen, you know, maybe he's just never met a Muslim before and he just watches Fox News or whatever the fuck he watches and just follows that, right? And, you know, sometimes it's hard. Look, as comedians, it's hard to not be petty. Like, we love...
it's hard to take the high road.
Yeah. And I was shocked that I actually took the high road because I tend to lean on the petty side.
Yes, Mona.
I'm just trying to keep it real right now.
Yeah.
You know? But that day I was having a moment. I was like, yo, I'm going to not make it petty tonight. I'm going to just take the high road. And can I tell you something? I think that was a single greatest choice that I made. That was a really great choice because people who were there, who were laughing at his ignorant jokes, just kind of stopped and were just like recalibrating. I could see their brains just recalibrating. They're like, wait, everything that this guy said does not match with what this woman is doing, right? Everything that's coming out of her mouth does not match what he said. And they had the greatest time. And I remember this older gentleman that was sitting in the front, he was wearing a shirt called Spiritual Gangster. And he was this older guy. And I was like, sir, you seem like you go to the church a lot. He goes, yeah. He goes, Jesus, my savior. I'm like, that's wonderful. I'm like, that's amazing. I was like, I have daddy issues. So let me just start off by saying that I would be more than happy to hook up with you just to show you that Muslims and Christians can come together while I'm satisfying my daddy issues. He was like, that's funny. But to bring me on to headline this show, yo, it's fucking, even the ethnic people is like a little ghettos.
There's a whole
they didn't go to private school.
People
are not showing up to this bar, tell you that much.
They go to another bar.
They go to the other bar.
They go to LA for their bars.
They go to LA for their bars, exactly.
Oh man, yeah.
I wanted to.
There was a bar, actually, this is a side story, but there was a bar in Lancaster called The Back Door.
Oh, geez.
And it was literally, you know, like you couldn't go through the front door. You could only go through the back door, right?
Right.
And it was the only gay bar in Lancaster. And everybody kind of knew that it was, but nobody said anything about it.
Yeah.
And when you walked in, it was like anybody, because there's no... Like here, it's like if you're gay and you want to do that type of partying in West Hollywood, that looks a particular way. Yeah. If you go to any other parts of city and that's your style of queer, that's the bars that you're going to go to. Yeah. In Lancaster, it was like the only one. So you had like old white folks up in there who like you had every single minority in there. Wow. And nobody was there. It wasn't like a hookup culture. It was just like a mixed bag, a motley crew of folks. And I was like,
that's amazing.
This is so great. So like, there's such a, like, yes, there's the bars where you have the type of people who come from Lancaster and there's a particular style, like, God bless you. But then like you have this other space, which is supposed to be queer as done by the high desert.
Sure.
And it's like so powerful to go up in there and just be like, oh my God, like everybody could just be here and nobody's body shaming one another. Nobody's acting like you're too cool for school. You get what I'm saying? You're literally just want to be gay and have a beer.
Sure, absolutely. And just not feel even threatened. Just be with, the like-minded folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not queer, you're probably queer friendly, right? That you're there, you're an ally, you're there, you're supporting, you're like, yo, I want to be a part of this. I actually wanted to ask you, as I like to ask my gay friends, what age did you know that you were queer?
I always tell people it's not like I never had an understanding that I was straight or cis. You know what I'm saying? Like as a young kid, I was like I look like a dude. Nobody tripped about me. I'm trying to look for a picture so that you can see. Nobody tripped that I looked the way that I did, that people would come up to my parents and say, oh, what a cute son you have. And they were like, they were just like, we're just trying to go to get our groceries. We don't need to stop and have a conversation about our child. But like, this is me and my sister.
Aww.
And then, and
your sister's younger, right?
She's older.
She's older. Okay.
And like nobody, like, so I just felt like I got away with a lot more than like if you were born. There's me and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Yeah.
The shorts were really short back then, huh?
They're getting shorter again.
They are.
I didn't know if you got the memo, Mona.
I did not.
They're getting shorter again. Like
I'm all about
for all genders. They're just. It's like right up in the goods. You know what I'm saying?
I'm about those booty shots. I don't care.
Yeah. And so what I was saying was that like I didn't get that much heat on me the same way that somebody who was assigned male at birth would get heat if they were exhibiting feminine behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody tripped. So I just I wasn't shamed at an early age. So I was very much aware that I was like, I was attracted to women at a young age. I had crushes on girls.
Young as in what? Like 4 or 5 years old?
Yes, like 3.
Wow. You just, yeah.
I was just horny at 3.
No, you had good taste.
That's what it is. I was like, damn, these uncles are gross.
but these aunties. But Dilo, they are though.
I know. I already know this.
When you go to the brown parties, you look at the women and you're like, wow, beautiful, gorgeous. And then you look at the men and you're like,
you didn't have to work for shit.
I was like, I didn't know Jabba the Hutt had so many children. Like, what in the...
So painful.
So painful.
I know. And they're still such kings too. And you're just like, but... And you look at the aunties and you're like, I could rock your world. oh, you don't do that. Okay, I do that.
You look at the uncles and you're like, y'all fuck?
I know. You're like, who agrees to this, really?
I'm like, you do fuck him with the lights off, right?
Yeah, probably.
Most
definitely.
I mean, it's just alarming. Wow, 3 or 4 years old. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's I think you might know him. He's an actor and he's Indian. He was my very first gay Indian man I ever met in my life. Cyril James, you know Cyril?
No.
Cyril James, you don't know? He's an actor. He's from New York, and we've been like friends forever. And I asked him, and I was like, "How old were you when you knew?" And he was like, "Oh, I was about like 6 or 7 years old when I knew."
Yeah.
I'm always curious, because when you're straight, right? It's not something that, like, my mother never pulled me in the corner and was just like, you're going to suck a dick. Like,
right.
Conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not taught that kind of a thing. Because, I mean, look, in the South Asian community and all that, there's like just so much amount of stigma, against queer, against LGBTQ. So for me, it's just like, just think about it logically. Like, people come out and say, well, it's a choice. I'm like, choice? I'm like, made a choice? I didn't choose to be straight. I literally, nobody ever having a conversation with me to be like, yo, you're going to be straight. Like, nobody ever walked up to me and be like, don't eat a pussy. Okay.
Right.
Nobody had that conversation.
I know. Like, why aren't people saying that?
Why aren't people saying that?
I know. Like, if you're so dead set against your child being queer, like, why aren't you just telling us what genitalia to put in our mouth? You know?
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, so you're that age. You're so young. You're looking at hot Sri Lankan aunties. You're like, yo, you don't understand.
I'm like, I could rock your world.
You're like, you make me hot chocolate, and you don't even know the tricks I could do, auntie.
Yeah, that's what I was saying at 3. Yep.
Your story, you're going to high school. Are boys approaching you? Are you going?
I'm also attracted to masculinity as well.
Okay.
But I've been sort of like, so I've dated cis men, I've dated cis women, I've dated gender non-conforming people. So I think that when puberty hit, I was just kind of like, oh, like now is that time that you can start being on the prowl. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so if guys would holler, I would always be like, okay, like let's do this. Let's see what this is about. And I never like, but I think that when looking back and I think about like the men that I've been like attracted to, there was something also about like wanting to be close enough to that style of man that I appreciated, because it wasn't about like, oh, I loved this cat. It was like, oh, I want to be this cat. You know what I'm saying? So there was a mix of that too. But they were always like loving and tender and stuff like that, which is very weird because whenever I hear stories about what my cis female friends talk about from their adolescence or their puberty years, it's like the shit started for them, like the shit with shitty men started with them for them at that age. You know what I'm saying? Mm. So it's like navigating idiot men from that age. And in my world, all the men that I was kicking it with and being sexual with were all amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, well, thank God, they weren't neo-Nazis, so that's what's comforting. Because you are in Lancaster, so you're just like, it's a fucking, it's like.
No, I knew at that age to date outside of Lancaster.
Oh, good. Oh, so it wasn't like playing fucking Russian roulette with your dating life. Goodness.
No. I already knew. I knew what the stakes were.
So, I mean, you're going out and, look, we're still coming from a pretty conservative background, right? It doesn't matter if you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, it doesn't matter. It's a culture, right? It's not even about religion. It's the culture that's so conservative. So you're going out with guys, and are these white boys? Are these Sri Lankan boys?
No. The first guy that I kissed, he was Tamil, Sri Lankan guy. And then the next one, he was Pakistani. And then after that, they were all men of color.
Okay.
Actually, one guy that I hooked up with was not.
So are you like, clearly you're not bringing the boys around to your house?
No.
That's not part of the conversation.
No, it is not. In fact, my mother found a letter that I had written to the Pakistani cat, and she was so pissed.
Really?
She was pissed. She was angry. She was like tearful. And she was like, Dilo, did you have sex? And I was like, no, because I hadn't.
How old are you at this point?
I was 15 or 16.
Okay.
But she was so upset. She was so upset. My apple was like, why'd you go into Dillo's stuff and read the letter? Like, why would you do that?
Why would you what?
Why would you go into my stuff and read my letter? You know what I'm saying? Right. So my father was kind of like, that's none of our business.
South Asian mothers don't know fucking boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. But yeah, anyway, that's the.
I'm just curious. What was in the letter that made your mom so teary-eyed? Were you
because okay, so he had written me, and he was like, he wrote like these roses. He drew roses, and then he was like, what that night was so special to me, and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, and so I wrote him back, and I said, I hope that next time we meet, it could be more of what we did or something like that.
Oh shit! What did you do?
I don't know. Just playing baseball. That's all we was doing. So yeah, probably no. On that was so okay. So she saw the letter right after prom.
Oh boy!
And that was second base.
Ah.
Second base is what? Wait, I gotta get this clear.
First base is kissing. Second base is like, oral stuff or like maybe finger banging.
And what's third base?
No, third base is like penetration.
No, then what's a home run?
There's a home run too?
The home run is the full penetrative sex. So third base is oral.
That must be for anal then. Then that must be.
Such a fucking fool. Yes, you're right. You're right.
It's different holes. Like the hole.
If you're gay, then third base is anal.
Third base is yes. Then you just kind of shorten.
And you never get a home run really because.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
I don't know how that would work actually. Anyway,
I mean, home run could be like an orgy. Who knows?
There we go. Oh, home run is more than two people for sure.
More than Yeah. So what? Your mom's freaking out.
Mom's freaking out. She's tripping out, and then at some point, like I just had to assure her, like, look, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that thing. Do the sex, and then she would. I think that she was that kind of like broke trust in me all around. So she started accusing me of doing all sorts of things, and then it was kind of downhill from there. But I feel like it was a tumultuous ride with my mother. Let's just put it that way. And until my present partner came into my life, that was when she kind of started settling into the fact that I was queer. Because at first it was like, oh, my child is a heathen. Then it was, oh, my child is a queer. And also my child is trans. And also my child is also trying to be a heathen with another queer person. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was okay initially that I was gay, just as long as I wasn't gay with someone. You know what I'm saying?
How does that work? What kind of gay is that?
I know, exactly. It's like every celibate swami and spiritual guru. You know what I'm saying? Like, she wanted me to be one of those people. Oh, and she's tried to conversion therapy my ass too. She took me after I always say I have 3 coming out stories. Hindu conversion therapy. Mm-hmm. So it was like gay. So I came out as gay. Then I came out and said I had a girlfriend. And then I came out as trans. And in between the first and the second stories, my amma took me to different holy people. Wow. And I remember one conversation we had. We actually were in India and one of my cousins got diagnosed with MS, and so we were doing this pilgrimage in the south of India, and so my cousin was someplace else, and my mother took me to go and see another one of these Swami peoples, and my mother was like, my child doesn't want to get married, and so the Swami lady was like, well, okay. And then my mom was like, no, my child doesn't like men. And then the Swami person was like, oh, okay, and so then I was like, okay, Amma, like, it's fine. And then she was like, it's fine. And the Swami was like, yeah, it's fine. And she was like, all she asked me was like, are you okay with it? I said, yes, I'm okay with it, but she's not okay with it. And then she was like, no, it's fine. And my mom was like, it's fine. And like, it was just the funniest shit ever because all these swamis were going around saying, it's fine, everything's fine. Right. Which made my amma think all these swamis were gay and celibate. And I was like, Amma, come on, not all of them are celibate.
Most of them are just gay, huh? Mm-hmm. That's why they're like gay. You're like, okay, and what?
Yeah, and then what?
What is the issue?
Nobody's tripping. Literally nobody was tripping when my amma wanted them to trip hard,
Wow. So what? She walks out of there and then she's like, I guess.
Oh no, she didn't listen to that Swami. She had to wait until the big Swami said that it was okay.
And
that was in 2015, and that still didn't mean that she was okay. No, that was 2005, and that didn't mean that she was okay. She was still stopped talking to me because she didn't like the girl that I had said that I was gonna be with. And then, it just kept going. It just kept going, like we on and off, not talking to each other. And then.
And what about your dad? How's your dad in all this?
My father, like when I first told him, he was like, he flashed the hardest, the quickest, but then he came around, he was like, okay. And he, he's a doctor. So he went to a medical conference. He's like, I went to a medical conference on this matter. And I realized that this is not something to be changed. It is something that is inborn, So I was like, okay. But, he's sort of like my champion.
Inborn? Is that the word he used?
Inborn.
Wow.
So he, in some ways, he's kind of been like the person who is shamed by my queerness because what will people say and what will people think?
Yeah.
Whereas my mother's was kind of like, yes, there was some of that too, but it was also like, no, this is wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
My father was like, this isn't necessary. Like, I think it was more about the tabooness of it. And then, but he was like, he's kind of been supportive in his very awkward immigrant man way. Kind of like, I think that probably at some point he's been thinking about life and he's just like, look, like nobody is, like, you just have to live your life,
Yeah.
Like kind of that mentality, like we all don't know what the fuck we're doing here. Really. Right. We can try and make sense of it, but just live your life, But my father was also the person who was like, don't make waves. Don't, like if white people say shit, don't say nothing. Don't be an activist. Don't do. But meanwhile, like he's the person who has the opinions on, like, he's been a Democrat for forever. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like the other people in our community didn't necessarily vote Democrat all the time.
Yeah.
So he's a little bit more. He's got contradictions and they're very nuanced.
Mm-hmm. I mean, your father sounds like he's a lot more evolved, or maybe a lot more accepting, but he had to kind of walk down his own path and just kind of figure it out for himself.
I think both of them was like that, but it took longer. Like they're both struggling, right?
Yeah.
But like it was different paths and different timelines, and like when my mother was finally okay with it, then my father went back into like not being okay with us, me and my partner having a more public commitment ceremony. You know what I'm saying? So like there was just like different, it's different. It always is rooted back to what the parent has their own shame and guilt over. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you can't, that's like lifelong, that kind of process. Like you get better at life the more you live it and think and challenge yourself,
Were they like questioning and being like, did we do something wrong?
Oh yeah. I think that what happened also, because my sister passed away when I was 13. And so she's with me.
How did she pass away?
She passed away in a fucking plane crash.
Are you fucking kidding?
Yeah. And it was on the ground, actually. It was on the ground. And then a DC-10 took it. Like it was told to take off the runway. But then the air traffic controller told this plane to land on this. And this was a smaller commuter plane. And this was like a DC-10 or a 747 or something like that. So everybody on the small plane died. And I think maybe, one of the Koch brothers was on the big plane and he didn't die.
Wow. This is in America? I mean, this is
at LAX.
That's
yeah.
And was she just by herself?
She was by herself. She had come back. So it just happened to be this weekend where my parents had to go to Toronto for a wedding. And my sister had an interview at Mount St. Mary's, which is a college here in I don't know exactly where it is. I think they have different parts, but
with 13 years ago. So.
No, this happened in 91.
And how old was she?
She was 17. Yeah, I was 13. And so yeah, she was the only person on the plane, and it was on the way back from the interview. She had like a presidential scholarship, the whole nine, and then she on the ride back. This is what happened. Yeah. But going to your question about like, did my parents think that this was their fault? They thought because right after she passed and I was 13, they weren't really like they were around physically, but like they were devastated. Sure. So then I just kind of started doing shit by my damn self. I started like I just was like, okay, like I gotta just figure out this stuff. Like, it was a very depressed household. And so I was just like, so they thought like, so the one auntie actually told my mother that it was because I was neglected after my sister died, that's why I turned queer. And even when my mother heard this shit, like even for her, she was like, people say what they're going to say. Like that's the thing. Like even when people would say shit like this, even though my mother wasn't completely okay at different points, she still had the wherewithal to understand that this was kind of weird.
If grief made people gay, I should be the gay person. Okay? Are you fucking
kidding? Yeah.
I should be. I would be so quick. My entire existence would be just fucking.
Yeah, just gay. All day, every day.
Everything would be gay.
You'd be wearing rainbows all the time.
I would bathe in glitter every day.
Yes.
You fucking kid.
And you'd be on the prowl. I'd be like, Mona.
I'm in Hollywood. I mean,
yeah.
Right?
So you're a little gay.
COVID or no COVID, I'm prowling the fuck out of this.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? This ignorance is just fucking baffled me. You know what I wanted to ask you? I actually want to bring up. James said, "What's a Grand Slam?" Because we're talking about Thursday.
Grand Slam is the orgy.
I think Grand Slam.
It's a day-long orgy. With rotating partners. That's a Grand Slam.
Who's got time for that? I got laundry to do.
I know. It's like on your vacation day, I think.
It's like a cruise. Like you take a cruise.
Yeah, maybe it's a cruise. That's what it is.
Have you been
the laundry done?
Or have you been on a cruise period or one of the gay cruises that they have?
I have not. I get so seasick.
Oh, okay. So that's how.
Just this past January, I was on a boat with my in-laws, and I shat and vomited at the same time.
What?
But thank you. Why, thank you. I typically don't think I'm good at multitasking, but...
Wow, that's a skill right there.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Handling things simultaneously, like, good for you.
Yep. I think that when it comes to multitasking, like, I'm just very bad at it. Like, I'm terrible at 69. Terrible. Like,
that's why you're a man. And that. What am I gonna say? People say God is a man. I'm like, yes, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
How could there could be so many fucking fires and the God can't put it away off? You know why? He's a man. Men are not good at multitasking. I'm sorry, man. I love you guys, but y'all can't. No. Yeah. Maybe gay men. Maybe, if that. Maybe.
Yeah, but like maybe.
But I'm not getting my hopes up too high. I wanted to actually ask you, you're talking about your mom taking you to different Hindu gurujis to do like kind of a gay conversion therapy.
Yeah.
How are you feeling and why are you going along? I
was going along because I thought that this might, like, she kept going. I go, Amma, I don't need to see any more people. And she'd be like, no, see this one person. Like, and I go, Amma, I'm not going to change. And she's like, no, well, you don't know that. And so she would say that, right? She's like, you don't know that. Like, anybody can change. Like, if you know what's right, then you would change. So I was like, you know what? Let me just go because I have a feeling. Like, I was also a little bit like curious to see what these people were going to say. Like, I have to be honest. And so, but it was so funny because like one of them met with my cousin and told them to like do all this stuff to like get clear on being like not gay anymore. Yeah. And for me, she didn't say that shit. So I was like, are you picking who you want to be gay and who are like I didn't understand. So many things were broken about the system to start off with. So anytime she asked me, I was like, let me just do this for her.
Yeah.
And then finish it. But time after time after time, every single person was like, it's fine, it's chill, like don't trip. And my mother wouldn't let it go. So then I started getting pissed. And I was like, look, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, you're either with it or you're not.
It's insulting because you're telling me that there's something wrong with me. Well, there's something wrong with me.
Right. And then I said, and then at some point in 2005, do you know about this cat, Sai Baba?
I've heard of Sai Baba, yes.
So he has like a big afro. And Sai Baba told an auntie of mine that queer was okay, like, and their worries over me were just going to be a passing cloud, like it's not even a big deal. So then my Amma was okay, but that didn't mean that she was like completely okay. She was at peace knowing that her child wasn't sinning. You know what I'm saying?
Right, because. But, you know, the cool thing about Hinduism is that Hinduism, to me, I mean, at least my understanding of Hinduism is that there's no such thing as like you're going to burn in hell because you're gay.
Right. No, but then if you're not living, sorry, I didn't even cut you off.
I said it's not like monotheistic religions, right? Like Islam, Christianity, Judaism. Well, Judaism doesn't even have a hell because they're way fucking cooler than we are. But, you know, like Christians and Muslims, we're big on hell and all that shit.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just like, no, you know, we have that kind of rigidness, but Hinduism doesn't have that.
I think it's more about the fear of that your child will have to burn off more karma in their next life. Do you get what I'm saying? Or like they'll just have to suffer a whole lot. I don't know. But there is, it is related to the afterlife, but it's a lot more related to the cultural taboo stuff.
But I think it's not even so much. I feel like, you know, I listen to my mom too. I feel like with South Asian parents, it becomes all, at the end of the day, the sinning part, yeah, but mostly it's about what are people going to say.
Yeah.
Mostly it's about what people
it's that cultural taboo stuff, yeah.
Who's gonna say something? How am I gonna come across? Oh, you fucked up as a parent. That's why your child is X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
right? That's why.
There's such a comfort now because everybody's older, and you see that nobody's life is perfect, right? It's just that, like when they were younger, they didn't know that they were that all this stuff was gonna unfold. You just trying to keep up with the Joneses.
That's right, Dilo. I mean, I look back on my upbringing in Pakistan, and I'm just like, yo, I grew up in some crazy dysfunctional family, like insane. And they would, my family would tote that sound around like they were fucking normal. They were the farthest thing from normal, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, now as an adult, like going to therapy and learning about, you know, personality disorders and mental disorders and all that, you're just like, oh, and then you start looking back on relatives and you're like,
you're like, these motherfuckers are crazy.
These motherfuckers been suffering from like bipolar and schizophrenia and all kinds of personality disorders. Like, you know, and we were just like, oh, that's just the way she is. So that's just the way he is. And it's like, there's something wrong with this person, you know. And now as an adult, you're like, yo, that motherfucker was crazy. Like,
like legitimately, like not well, right? Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like there's something about. I'm not trying to like big us up, but I feel like when you have that understanding, when you've done that work, you are literally healing so much intergenerational trauma.
Yeah,
so it is so like, you know, yes, we're comics, right? But like our journeys personally are literally what make our art even better. Okay. And I believe that 100% that, you know, every single person that I know who's come from dysfunctional family and has used that, you know, that's like such healing.
It's huge healing. I mean, for me, you know, in our family, I don't know how it was in your family, but in our family, we never said I love you. That was never a thing. That was never a conversation. And when I started going to therapy, you know, and just learning so much about myself and just kind of opening up, I would call my family up, and every time we would hang out, I'd be like, I love you. And they'd be like, okay. And they would just go all fucking, like, I could see their fucking heads, like, just like sparks coming out of their ears and shit. Like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, you don't have to go all fucking lunatic on this. All you have to say is, I love you. Have a nice day. That's it. And now it's become a thing in our family, but it took us a long time. Has your family been, are you guys like very like an expressive family where you guys are always an expressive family where you guys sit down?
No. We're like, I feel like our family was like really like quiet and conservative. My father's a joke teller, but so
that's where you get it from.
Yeah. And I feel like, as far as expressions of love are concerned, like I remember that I had run away at 11 because I was like, I'm super queer. This is not going to work out. I got to get out of this house. So I ran away and they found me. And then my mother, I remember for the first time, she was like, I love you. Like she was panicking, telling me that she loved me. Wow. And so then I was like, oh, this is very weird. Like it almost felt like too like, whoa,
all right, lady, you don't have to get all intimate.
All intimate, yeah. And it was like her own way of like trying to figure out what, she was panicking that I was going to run away again. She was panicking like something could have happened to me, like all of this stuff. And so when she was like that, I was like, oh, I remember clocking it. I was like, wow, that's the first time I've ever heard her really say that, but now, like, oh my God, it's like left, right, and center. Like she's found her freedom. She's been slowly finding her own freedom, like throughout the years. Like even like I say, it's complex because you can have an issue and then still be growing. Like it's not like one thing just changes you forever.
No, it's increments. It's increments. It's
increments. Yeah. So, but she's gotten her own freedom, and I think in certain ways, so is my father. But I think my father's a little bit more like, now he like enjoys hugs and stuff like that, but he's still like, okay. Now he doesn't stiffen up like he used to, like.
Yeah. And look, that's, for honestly, like I look at that, for our like parents who, they come from a completely different generation. I mean, they also come from, their upbringing is so different than ours, right? We have, they gave us privilege to born in your case, raised in my case here, where you're like, you grow up with so much more access to things and resources that they just simply didn't have, right? So kudos to them to even make the attempt or to even keep in mind to be like, hey, I'm going to grow and try to learn what is this? I mean, I actually wanted to also ask you that, you said that you come out to your parents and you bring out around the girlfriends. I mean, the first time you bring around a girlfriend, are you introducing her as the girlfriend, or you're just like, this is my...
I brought over so many of my partners to the house, and I wouldn't say shit about them. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, this is who it is. So my parents were confused, like, oh, this is just another person, like another friend,
Yeah.
And they never tripped, I think, because I think that they didn't understand that
they were knocking on the door to be like...
They weren't. And I would sleep in the same bed as this person at their house. And it's so interesting because I think that for them, they didn't understand that the women that I was bringing over were gay.
Interesting.
Because they were more femme and passed as a straight person or whatever.
Got it.
So they didn't think that. And they probably didn't think, like, you're never looking at your child and going, oh, that's a good looking motherfucker. Or do you get what I'm saying? Like to this day, I have this video of Anjali, my partner, going, Amma, that like hella people wanted to be with D-Lo, like, because he was on stage and they saw him, and then they would, like a lot of people, like they've approached him because of that. And my Amma was like, no. she's like, kind of like, why would anybody want?
That's funny. My mom is the opposite. I remember one day I was sleeping on the couch and my mom came in and I woke up and I was like, Mom, what's going on? And she was like, I just want to tell you something. Any man that would be here right now looking at you sleeping would not leave you alone. And I remember being like, yo, that is the creepiest shit you've ever fucking said to me. Don't ever repeat that fucking shit. That is some creepy ass shit that just came out of your goddamn mouth. You shut your fucking mouth, you creepy ass woman. I don't need to know what a man is gonna do to me.
My good God, that's horrible. That's
What?
like so many wrongs in there, Mona.
I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? This is so creepy. Like my mom is being a creep job right now. It's so gross. So apparently in my family, people do recognize how fucking attractive you are and let you know that their opposite gender would probably fuck the shit out of them. Yep. So that was my mom's way of saying somebody would probably fuck the shit out of them.
Yes. Don't be afraid. Someone will fuck you.
While simultaneously telling me to not have sex, which is incredible. Which is just like, so you just said that I'm desirable, but at the same time, not to be desired. Yes. Am I understanding this correctly? Yes.
And not to have desires.
Not to have desires, you know.
That is some wild shit.
I think my mom still thinks to this day that I'm a virgin, which is fucking hilarious. You know, you have this sex. It's like,
just. My whole thing was
I had a dick or two graze this mouth by accident. I've had a dick or two graze this mouth by accident. Sure. Mother.
Yeah, I think that I still, you know, from time to time make sure that I maintain my lies that I have started from my childhood. I don't lie to them too much right now. But
you're a grown ass man. Like, what the fuck?
Now I maintain some of the lies for sure, because otherwise they would just be like, this guy's a hoe. But some things I have told them, like, you know, about having, like, I told them, like, oh, you remember this person? And then they would be like, you were dating her?
No.
Yeah.
That is so fucking great. What age, Nilo, were you like, I'm out, I'm going to college, I'm moving the fuck away from this place?
Yeah, I was 17, but so I wanted to get the hell out of California, actually, and my parents made a deal because I had gotten into UCLA. I was doing music a lot more. So I auditioned on the piano and the vina. I don't know if you know. The vina is like a sitar, but it's from the South.
Okay.
And I auditioned on both those, and I got into the ethnomusicology program at UCLA.
Oh, wow.
That was the only way that I was going to go to college. I didn't even want to go to college. I wanted to go to like a video school. And so...
you mean a film school?
It was called video production back then.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. What do you mean back then? We're talking fucking 2000s.
This is... I'm old. I went to college 95.
You went to college in 95? Shut the fuck up, D-Lo. You're lying. You're lying.
Now nobody can see this because they're going to start calculating.
What the fuck?
Look, I could see your wheels turning, Mona.
I'm
You're
like,
so readable.
I moved to America in 95. I was a teenager.
Maybe we're the same age, Mona.
You was going to college in 90s, dude. You said 97, right?
I graduated in 99. Wait. Yes. No. Yes.
Yeah. Because if you started college in 95, then you graduate in 99.
We're going to spend the rest of our minutes here calculating and being super South Asian and just doing math. We're just going to be doing math as South Asians.
Two South Asian people who can't fucking figure out math. What a fucking failure. Wow, dude. Wow. Just horrible at math, right? That's amazing.
I think.
That's incredible. So it was called a video production, not film school.
Not film school. And so then I went to UCLA, and it was there that I was slowly doing like more activist social justice stuff. I was being mentored by communists, feminists, like all of that stuff. So that was kind of like the beginnings of my career in performance. Yeah. Then right after college, moved to New York, started shifting more into doing theater and solo performance. And then that's when stand-up started coming into my shows. So I had been doing the college university circuit as like that bridge between the scholarly work and the activist stuff. And then stand-up started just getting incorporated in these college shows. And so from that age till now, I was doing probably pre-COVID, I was doing a lot of that stuff. Mm. And through and through, I feel like my I feel like, as with all things, it's like the more I grew into like my queerness, the more my art changed, the more that, it's like that the distance with family occurs because you're pursuing your dreams and you're also unapologetic about who you are. Yeah. And then you just sort of accordion in and out with family. So
yeah. I mean, so you go to, I mean, you've been doing stand-up for how
long? I feel like I've been performing stand-up since probably 2002 or 3.
Wow.
But it was stand-up around, it was always like my stand-up is like so personal. It's about my life. It's about stories like that. They're longer setups. Mm-hmm. They're, I've been doing that stuff since then. I think that
you're a storytelling comic. That's who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like me. Like more, I do some like observational stuff and things like that, but I'm primarily a storytelling comic.
Yeah. So I do that, and more of like goofy, silly style stuff that are like more observational, and then a lot more that is with rooted in my personal story.
Got it. And so, I mean, you're doing stand up, and then you go to school for you go to music school.
I went to music school, so that was before, and then when I graduated, in college I was already performing.
Okay.
But that was like doing more like hip hop and spoken word and stuff like that. And then I went to New York for a job, like right after I came out to my parents. I went to New York, create some more distance, and then and that's when I started working in the Lower East Side theater scene in New York. So and it was like very like, performance art and queer based theater and stuff like that. So, cause New York's that was what New York was. And that was so amazing. That was like the most incredible schooling I could have ever gotten in theater and performance. I went to all the shows. I sat in front rows of like weird ass shows and the best shows and classical sort of theater shows, and just like observed. And I would go to like, see John Leguizamo, see like, like I was just that kid who was like just consuming.
Sure.
And then it just started filtering into my style, and people liked it. So then I just kept going with it,
Yeah.
But I did try and hold on to music for a while and keep doing things, but it just took over, like performance took over. So I was doing like stand up on the college university circuit. I wasn't doing stand up in the clubs yet. I was doing mostly theater and solo based theater, like on the touring circuit.
Yeah.
And then when I came to LA, probably like every once in a while I'd hit up a stage, but when I came back to LA in 2013, by that time it had been like maybe two shows 2 years of doing more club stuff, both in New York and in LA.
What I love about your story is that because you came out to your parents, they were so still trying to figure that out. They just didn't have time to push you towards medical college.
It's so funny. They knew that it wouldn't be. My sister was supposed to be the doctor and do all of that stuff. They knew that my ass was not going to be like that, because even though I got good grades, I was never interested in books and studies. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to do any of that. I was very clear. I love art. I love music. Do you get what I'm saying? And they didn't know how to guide me on that path. But then they also were like, I remember it was like even a couple of years ago, my father was like, "Oh, you could have been a great doctor." Like he said that through and through. But like he was also like, you have to do what's going to make you happy.
I mean, your parents sound like, as conservative as they may be, they also sound very open-minded, very cool, embracing.
They didn't know. I think that after my sister, it was sort of like a reality check, like what's important. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. Or it began that journey at least. But I also think that they didn't know a lot. You know what I'm saying? They were young when they left.
Sure.
They also weren't like go-getters in that way. Do you get what I'm saying? Like my father just knows to work and he just saves. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like he's not like investments and he's doing all of these business things like some other uncles was doing. You know what I'm saying? He's just like, this is my life,
That's
I like to garden, you know. So that's his whole thing. So they were not really like, I think that they worried. I think that they probably had some worry, like, is this kid going to be able to support themselves? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But outside of that, they didn't. And so they know that, like, I know how to support myself, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so you graduate college, you're doing spoken word, you're doing theater. I mean, what better place to watch theater than New York and London, right? I mean, the two primary freaking, meccas of theater. But what age do you come out to your parents and you're like, I'm going through a transition. I'm going to, because you talked about it briefly in the set that I watched on YouTube. You said that you had already had the surgery and then you went and told your mom.
Well, with transitioning, like, like the beginning of this medical transition, because I feel like we're all transitioning all the time, but the beginning of a medical transition for a trans person, I ended up, they had already kind of understood especially my mother. This is very interesting. She always kind of understood my queerness to be based off of gender. Whereas my father kind of understood me to be more like his understanding of what a lesbian would be. Do you get what I'm saying? My mother always was like my mother would be like, I told Amma, I said, Amma, there's like, people like me, this is pre-T. So like where I'm gender nonconforming and I'm, have a high feminine voice and that's why I'm in the world. I was like, Amma, there's people like me who date other people. I was like, there's, she called them, so a femme person, this is a queer theory according to my Amma. A femme person who's gay or lesbian is called a girl gay. And the butch person is the boy gay. And I said, Amma, there's boy gays who also date other boy gays. And Amma was like, no. And I was like, yeah, Amma, they do. And she's like, then what? Why? Like she doesn't understand, right? So
I'm just like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
What? Yeah. So for her, she's like, everything still exists in a heteronormative sort of lens,
Sure.
And my uppa wasn't like that. Like, I don't think that he really even thought about it too much, but it's so funny because when I started going by male pronouns, they weren't really tripping. They had met other trans guys in my life who, like some of my younger brothers who were trans, And so that wasn't so much the thing. It was more about like, I think that they were just kind of already on board. They haven't completely been on board with the pronouns. Like they try, but they fail. And then, but with surgery and with other stuff, like they've been, I would say that, I told my Appa about the surgery before. I told my Amma only found out afterwards. But, there was concern because there's concerns over surgeries. Yeah. I think that there's also like, like, what does this mean for me? And what does it mean for you?
What surgery? What are you referring to?
No. Top surgery.
Okay.
Top surgery is a double mastectomy.
Okay.
There's no vocal surgeries for trans guys, I don't think. Or not, it's not typical, I don't think.
Not for trans guys, but for trans women, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Okay. And anyway, I forgot where I was, but by the time the trans stuff started coming to the forefront, like things were kind of like easing up in general. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I felt like it wasn't as tough to come out as trans, because that was their understanding of me anyway. Like I was always a masculine person, and yeah.
Just to bring up some news update. Betsy DeVos just quit. The rats are leaving the sinking ship. Thank you, James, for sharing. Yes, they are indeed. That's what happens when you don't have South Asian parents. You just fucking, cross all kinds of people's boundaries and think the world's your goddamn oyster. It's not. It's not your fucking oyster. It's not. I'm always fascinated by, I've had two other trans friends, comedians also come on, and I always like to, it's Minority Report, so try to bring on as many minority voices. I mean, you're like triple minority in my eyes, you're right, but I actually, so you go through this kind of, it's funny, this concept of you reminded me of a story about, girl gay and boy gay. My mom was taking a flight to Pakistan, and she's on this airline, and she's sitting next to this lady. And when she arrives in Pakistan, she goes, "Oh my God, I met this lovely lady. She saw my Bengal. I saw her Bengal. She was wearing beautiful Bengal." I said, "You have beautiful Bengal." And she took up the Bengal and she gave it to me. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What did she do? She's like, she just took it off. And then we became such good friends through the flight. Now she wants to throw a party in my honor. I said, "Are you trying to tell me you met a lesbian auntie?" She goes, no lesbian. No, not like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You go to a party? Did your mom go to the party?
She sure fucking did.
Was it a lesbian auntie?
Okay, Gilo, let me tell you the story, okay?
Wait for this story.
My mom shows up with my uncle to this party, okay? And she's like, this is a very interesting party because you have to understand Pakistan is a lot more conservative than Sri Lanka and India, right? We don't have men and women, strange men and women dance with each other. So this is at this lady's house, and like different men and women are dancing with each other. There's like all these very interesting looking people there that she's never met. She's sitting next to this guy, and he is giving her this thing called tandai. What tandai is actually marijuana mixed with milk. Okay? Tandai actually translates to cooling off. Yeah, you cool the fuck off, all right? Mm-hmm. My mom, so this guy sitting there giving my mom this drink and simultaneously talking to her about this homemade Viagra that he makes that can make a man like fuck through walls. Okay? And my mom is like, why are you talking to me like this? Like, I don't know you. Like, why are we having this conversation, right? And she is sipping and drinking this drink and just does not have the courage to be like, can we just please stop having this conversation right now? Well, you're telling me about homemade Viagra's that I'm just personally very uncomfortable with, right? So as she's drinking, she's like, I'm trying to get up and I can't get up because I can't find my legs.
It's too good.
It's too good. My mom is high out of her. She's high as a kite. God. She don't know what the hell she's been drinking. Okay. So the lesbian auntie walks up and she was like, I've invited all these friends in your honor. I even have a cake for you. I'm like, she had a cake for you? She was like, oh yes, she had a cake for me. And then I asked her, and then basically the party just ended very strangely, where my mom was so high that she didn't know what to do. And my uncle never drank the drink. And then my uncle was just like, I think it's time for us to leave. And then grabbed my mom's arm and then just like left. And this poor auntie was just like, probably just left devastated that she did this whole thing for my mom, hoping, that she was going to this was her seduction act. I mean, that's a very extensive seduction act. Right? And kudos to the lesbian auntie, right? I mean, kudos.
I mean, you go all out for the thing you want to get,
I mean, like,
it's a clear rule.
My God, I was like heartbroken for the auntie because I was like, dude, she did a lot for you. The least you could have done is at least kiss her. That's the basic shit you could have done.
Did she eat the cake?
She ate the cake. Okay? Fucking anime over here. She ate the cake, okay? Anime, eat the cake, okay? Like, bitch, like, you just left the poor auntie. So my mom comes like home the next day and like tells me the story, and I was like, is she divorced or separated? She's like, how did you know? Really? I have to be a fucking genius to figure this out? I'm like, she's like, well, they're separated. I'm like, let me guess. She comes from money and she lives in a separate house while the husband lives in a separate house, right? She goes, yes. how do you know these things? And I'm like, because I'm out in the fucking world with my eyes open, mother.
Yep.
That's why. Okay.
And you know not to take bangles from any lesbian auntie.
Listen, I would have taken the because I'm shameless. But you know,
and everybody's a little gay, Mona.
Listen, we're all in the spectrum, all of us.
All of us.
There's no such thing as like just straight.
Yeah.
Like, stop it.
That's so boring anyway.
It's so vanilla. It's so like, stop it. But my mom, you know, and she was like, yes, we keep friendship. And I told her I cannot come and do more cake eating parties like that. And I was just like, oh my God.
I love it though. But your mother was like, come on, this is the thing. The most conservative folks are drawn to that other life of that.
Of course they are. Of course
like that energy. They're just like, oh, they're with it. So like that party, she's never going to forget that party.
No. You know what it is? I remember my mom calling me up after that and asking me, she was like, what is the lesbian? What they do? And I was like, what? She's like, what is a lesbian? What?
I need to know in case I have to show up.
Precisely. And I was just like, oh, she wants details. Okay. And I was like, Ma, it's getting awkward because I'm your daughter and this is just weird.
Your mother doesn't shy away from awkwardness with that.
No, I was like, I can refer you to Pornhub, but I don't think it comes up in Pakistan, so you're not going to be able to see it.
Are they in Pakistan right now?
Huh?
Are your parents back in Pakistan?
Well, my father passed away like 15 years ago, but my mom right now is in Pakistan right now, you know. Gotcha. But at the time when I was talking to her, she was in Pakistan too, but then she had come back and then she started living here. But I was like, Ma, I can't get into details of what it is because I don't know how to express it. I was like, but let's just say there's a lot of eating going on, but nobody's getting fat.
Good job, Mona. Good.
And then she was like, and then there was just like a silence. There was a silence. And then she was like, oh, that is where the mouth goes on the dirty part. That is the lesbian.
Yep.
And I was like, dirty part, which hole? Like, what are we? What hole are we talking here? Like, you know?
Dirty part. No, not that hole.
Not that hole. Which hole are you referring to, Mother? But, you know, because for them, it has to be like so fucking basic. You're just like, I don't know, you know? Has your mother ever gotten into like, tell me what is the lesbian? Like,
no, you know, I told my mother that I had to learn how to center my needs in my relationship. And my Amma was like, And I said, Amma, do you know what that means? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, are you sure, Amma? And she's like sex? And I was like, no. So I think that she thinks that I talk about sex with her very openly. I don't really know that it's very confusing. But she has, I remember somebody said, we were watching TV and somebody had said the word dildo. Amma goes, Dildo, what's a dildo? And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, it's like a phallic piece, like it could be made out of like a plastic or a silicone, and it's something to be inserted into the vagina for sexual pleasure. Or like, I said vagina. I wasn't trying to talk about like any other orifice. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You're not even freak her out any further than she was.
Yeah, exactly. And so then she was like, oh. And so, you know, my name, Dilo, my mother gave me. She's been calling me Dillo from when I was younger because I also like pickles. And then my government name at that time was a part of that. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, so for her, it's like Dillo. That's what she calls me to this day, right? Mm-hmm. I just switched it to Dilo, you know?
Got it.
So
because it was too close to being confused with.
Well, so then she, from the top of the stairs, she wanted to call me and she was like, Dildo. And she thought that was gold. She was laughing. And so like for days, she was calling me Dildo. That's my mother.
Listen, man, you know, when they start coming out with the jokes, watch out.
I know.
Watch out.
They think they're so funny.
That's so funny. James is like, when my mom asks me something embarrassing, I just refer to what I prefer.
That's the way to go.
I can't do that. I'm the only daughter, so I can't just like pass it off to a sister to be like, why don't you go talk to my sister? And she'll explain to you what the lesbian is. Like, why do I have to bear the brunt of this? Jesus.
I would probably just tell her to go to my appa. My appa will gladly tell her all the things.
Well, in your case, your dad's a doctor, so that's helpful, you know. My dad was a mechanical engineer. There's no fucking way that my dad is gonna be like, My
dad gets some enjoyment out of telling her things that she doesn't really need to know. Because he's the jokester. He's like the dirty uncle too. Not in the creepy uncle way, but he's like the dirty joke uncle. You know?
I love that so much. He just sounds
might be a creepy uncle, but I wouldn't know that.
What about your family? Like, you know, your other extended family members, like you go through the surgery, you come out as trans, and they're what? Are they part of your life? Are they like coming out and supporting?
I think that like with my cousins and the people who were like not of the older generation, like there was no sort of withholding of information.
Yeah.
I think that with the elders, it was like as soon as my mother was okay with certain things, then it would be okay with everybody else of that generation.
Well, she's sending the cues, right? She's setting up the cues of people of how to feel, right? She's like, yep, you know, when I came out of my artist closet, my mom was like, my family were pretty fucking horrified. They were just, oh my God. My brother told me, he's like, only prostitutes do what you want to do. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, prostitutes get paid way more than comedians do. That is an insult to prostitutes. Like, all prostitutes, like, are you fucking kidding me? Prostitutes make way more money than we do. We do fucking 3-minute sets at a goddamn laundromat at midnight while waiting 2 fucking hours just to get up there.
Yeah. Comedians, you're right. Comedians don't make close to anything that sex work can bring you.
I personally think it's an insult to prostitutes to call them, you know, to be like, whoa, did you just call me? No, I'm no fucking broke ass comic. Like, fuck, I make money, bitch. Like, my blowjobs ain't for free. You know how many free blowjobs I've given away in my life, Dilo? If I was a prostitute, I'd be sitting on top of a fucking house right now. But no, Mona had to hold on to honor and shit.
Yeah, I know.
Fucking horrible. My mom called me a few days ago and she was just like, you are in Hollywood, you are young, you are beautiful. Why don't you find yourself a rich man and just get married? And I'm like, because you didn't teach me those things, mother. You didn't teach me how to get a man. I don't know what to do.
That if you just laid down on a couch, some guy would leave you alone. So like that kind of advice.
Yeah. So apparently I have to go and lie down on dudes' couches and wait for them to fucking like me and possibly marry me. Like, while I'm passed out like fucking Sleeping Beauty, they're going to put a ring on my finger. Are you fucking kidding me? I asked my mom for advice and I was like, Ma, how do I find a man? And she was like, 2 things. You do the cooking and you keep quiet. What?
Yep. We all know that one. We know that equation. We already know that equation.
You want me to do the cooking and keep quiet? That's how I'm going to get a husband.
I think that she got that mixed up. That's how South Asian women have been told how to keep their husbands.
Yes. To keep their husband, you got to do the cooking and then, you know, keep quiet. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now, are you and Anjali married?
We are. We had our commitment ceremony. So we met in 2010 and in 4 years, you know, like that was 2010 was like, are we in this? Are we doing this or not? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in 2005, we had our commitment ceremony. And then in 2018, we got legally married.
Because gay marriage got legalized what year?
I don't remember. I'm a bad gay.
I mean, it was during the Obama administration.
Yes.
Right. Was it the first term or the second term? I forgot.
I don't know.
So that's
I'm horrible.
When you guys did the commitment ceremony, were your parents there?
Mm-hmm. Our parents hosted it, and we brought in. It was mostly like family.
Yeah.
And our friends. It wasn't like extended community and all of that.
Yeah.
And so we did that. I think that ceremony actually changed everybody because there was a lot of anxiety going in, especially my father was having a hard time and my mother actually as well. And then when they saw just like this outpouring of love for both of us, it was sort of like, they were like, oh, like people actually are happy for them. They're not just pitying them or pitying us, or, you know what I'm saying? So they were, they had that change. They had the thought that the people were just like going along with this, but they were going to feel, but there was so much love, like it was pulsating. It was a very powerful thing. So because of that, I think that changed how they were viewing. They were like, oh my God, everybody was on a high after that, and so that was beautiful and special. And then, 2018, we got legally married because health insurance.
Yeah.
And also at that time, we were thinking about doing international adoption.
Okay.
And so there's like a whole fucking thing around that. But anyway, it was
international adoption from Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then there was like some snafus and whatnot. So that's just a longer, harder story. But so that's that we got legally married at the courthouse in 2018, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, that's so beautiful. I think like, look, as a straight woman living in West Hollywood, which is the gayest part of Los Angeles, I can assure you, just like finding a decent person, gay, straight, trans, it doesn't fucking matter, is a goddamn battle. I don't give a shit like what your orientation or, gender identity is. Like, it's just a challenge here. But for you to be able to find someone that loves you and you love them and you get along with them, I mean, it's just it's so special and it's so beautiful, when I hear stories in the news about trans people getting murdered because somebody has a fucking problem with them because, they can't deal with their own, their own queerness or whatever their fucking issue is because they're in the closet. It really fucking breaks my heart. And I wanted to ask you, like, look, you're a public figure. You have an amazing show that you put on. You've been selling out. Is that the same? Was it the same name, To Tea or Not to Tea? Is that the same?
The last one. Yeah.
That was the last one. Where you talk about your entire life story. I mean, is that the one that you sent me, To Tea or Not to Tea?
I think I sent you all of them. I talk about my life in all of them, but they're like different angles of like the process.
Right. Yeah. Do you like, do you get death threats online? Do you get people reaching out to you be like,
I got threats whenever I would, because, when you're on the college university circuit and you're queer, you're ending up having to go to a lot more like smaller towns, like in the Midwest, in the South, whatever. And so some of these places, if they knew that somebody like me was coming, would push back on it. And only a couple of times there were like protests, or like not protests, but like trying to shut down the show.
Because it had you on it, or it had more other queer people too?
No, it's usually just me when I'm on the college university circuit. So it was always like in protest that a queer person was coming to do a show.
Was it a Christian college or something?
One was up in Seattle one time, and
Seattle.
Not Seattle, it was outside of Seattle. And then one time it was in there was pushback in Rhode Island one time. That was a more conservative school. And then there was one in Ohio. I can't remember. I feel like
but Rhode Island? Nobody's going to Rhode Island. Like, Rhode Island needs to take a fucking chill pill.
Yeah. And then and then in India one time it was also there was threats. And then you
perform anyways?
Yes, in every single situation I performed, but we had to sort of be on alert. Right.
Are you getting heckled when you go up and perform?
Sometimes I get heckled if it's. I mostly get heckled in the clubs. It's like usually, it's like, it's not heckled for being trans. Like it's heckled just because somebody's being
okay, just because.
But I don't get, I think that there was only one time, and it was like at a drag show, that I was getting heckled by gay men. And that was like it was transphobic. You know what I'm saying?
Can we just talk about that for a second? That exact point.
Yeah.
I talked to my lesbian friends. I talked to my other trans women friends, and there is this very interesting thing that happens. As you know, if we live in the straight people living in the straight world don't really know this, but I've heard this from multiple places where I've heard stories of gay men being transphobic or gay men trying to be demeaning towards lesbians. And I'm just like, wait a minute.
Oh yeah, that just happened all
LGBTQIA.
Oh, no. It was always like, I think that when I was younger, like, it was very clear that there weren't that many of us. So like, I had many gay friends, I had lesbian friends, I had a couple of trans friends.
Yeah.
But as I got older, it was very clear, like, the communities were super divided. I feel like it's like gay men, and then there'll be like women and trans and women, women and trans folks, women, non-binary trans folks. Like there's like a clumping. Do you get what I'm saying? And I feel like it's because, for many, many different reasons, there's a tolerance with marginalized communities. And so when you're a gay white person, for example, you might not be as like, it just might be about your gayness. You get what I'm saying? It's just about like the worlds that you rock in. Like there's a lot of gay folks that love talking about like they were about that equal marriage type thing. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, while that fight's going on, it's sort of like women and queer people of color were like, yo, but like there's gender shit, there's survival shit, there's the fact that our lives are being targeted, Yeah. So I think that it's the privilege that being a cis man in this world allows you, is to sort of like not think about things, because you could be in the closet. Like there were many stories that I heard of, like even gay people in higher executive positions in the industry that were making it hard for other gay people to get their stuff, through the door, because it shined bad on them. It might have outed them. It might have, do you get what I'm saying? So there's like a lot of
outed them, or they don't want them to have the same kind of a success that they do.
I mean, it might be a mixed bag of a whole lot of things, but I think it was mostly like, if they're associated with a gay thing, then they might be outed. Or if they're, like maybe there's enough sort of internalized homophobia that they're just like, they don't believe that these stories need to be shared in a larger way. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, you don't know. I mean, there's stories, but I know that they're truthful stories because there's so many different sources, but I'm not, I know some incredible, beautiful gay men of color who would never think that way. And then I also know I've met some, queers of color in general, women, men, trans, like it doesn't fucking matter. And you might just be like, I'm fed up with that group, So I'm kind of like, I'm the person who's like, we're like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, let's just all like work together to get more representation out there,
Sure.
And I think that some people are just, they might not see it that way. They might be thinking like, if somebody else gets a leg up, then what does that mean for me?
Yeah. Yesterday I had comedian Raj Sharma on, and we'll wrap up in a couple of minutes. I had comedian Raj Sharma on. I don't know if you know who he is. He's, Raj has been around for a long time, and him and I are very good friends. And Raj and I were talking about, he said something that really resonated, and I think it's very valid to this conversation, where, humanizing people of color, like, if you are South Asian, Middle Eastern, Black, Hispanic, whatever, non-white people, this lack of humanization, because it applied to what happened yesterday on Capitol Hill, right? The fact that in June, when BLM was protesting in DC, the National Guard was out there. I mean, they had people in gear. The DC police was.
They were set up. They were ready for it.
Yeah, they were ready for it, right? They were ready to shoot off tear gas and rubber bullets. But yesterday, there was not only was there no police next to, they were taking selfies.
Yep.
They were taking selfies with these terrorists. Not just that, they were directing the terrorists. I'm just going to keep calling them that because that's who they are. To Nancy Pelosi's office. How the fuck did you get access to Nancy Pelosi's office? Somebody had to guide you. Somebody had to tell you, hey, that's Nancy Pelosi's office. Yeah. Hey, that's so-and-so's office. I've been going to certain places. I mean, I go to the Comedy Store. I still don't know where the fucking manager's office is.
Yeah.
I've been to the Comedy Store forever. Don't fucking know where the manager's office is. So how the fuck you breaking into the Capitol Hill building?
Yeah.
Know that. And that goes back to, hey, we're not going to shoot you because you're white. We're not going to shoot you because you're one of us, right? Yeah. And if you were black or, brown or Latino or whatever, you would probably get fucking shot in the face on the spot. Imagine there were a bunch of Muslims.
Oh,
right?
No,
fucking taking over the Capitol Hill. We'd be assassinated on the fucking spot. Yeah. And that's the thing that I'm talking about, like the dehumanization of people of color, right? To not look at us as humans, not look at us as we have the same feelings and emotions and go to have the same needs as you, right? So you do humanize us. Do you feel that way, about even in, I guess, even in the queer community? Like, is that a thing where you're just like, wow, so you're a gay white man and your feelings and your things matter, but I don't matter?
Right. No, I mean, there's always a huge thing whenever it comes to race in the queer community. It's like there's two very different realities being lived. And, I'm not saying that happens all across the states. I think that, like, we're thinking about big cities or more resourced cities, Yeah. And I would put DC into that camp. Like, you know what I'm talking about, those types of cities. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I did want to make a comment on this because you were like, I'm going to call them these terrorists. Like, I was reading about that cat who did the bomb in Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, well, what? So I'm reading through it, and one of the police in the investigation team was like, we're not calling this domestic terrorism. And I was like, why does that always happen? Like, why some white people do some crazy ass shit where they like shoot up people or put bombs places and they refuse to call it domestic terrorism? So I was like, what then is domestic terrorism? Tell me.
I mean, you have to have the right skin tone for it.
Yes, you have to be brown in America in order for it to be considered domestic terrorism. And I'm like, and so then therefore yesterday makes sense. It makes so much sense. It's like,
but you know what it is? It has made sense for a very long time, right? That's why you see such a upward movement of BLM and Antifa. And to me, it is highly insulting that they would even come out and say, well, this is just like BLM or Antifa. It's like, no.
Nobody came out. If a whole bunch of black folks came out with fucking and started trashing shit, come on, get the fuck out of here.
BLM and Antifa.
Everybody would be dead.
Anti-fascism. BLM is for Black Lives Matter. All they're saying is stop fucking killing us. People. Just stop killing us just because you pulled us over. We're getting black people are getting killed for fucking sleeping in their own house. Sleeping in their own house. Not doing nothing, sleeping, right? A young man like Ahmaud Arbery is just going for a run, and people are getting shot just for fucking jogging, right? And you're coming out and comparing that. You're fucking protesting a democratically elected president, right? And because you don't like the results, that's why you're fucking going in and trying to break into a motherfucking federal building. Get the fuck out of my face. Trying to fucking compare yourself to BLM and
say some shit like that Trump was like, I forget what it was, but I thought I read this, that he was like, he basically said, "I love you," to he had made a video to tell people to like sort of chill out, and he was like,
listen, he had a 62-second video that's what got him banned on Twitter. That he was talking about
all sorts of lies.
Is to stay peaceful. He wasn't telling them to go home. And Twitter was just like, that's it. Like, you're invoking people. You're encouraging people to show up at the fucking. That's exactly what he did. He told his supporters to show up, right? Cause the mayhem that they did. And even Don Jr. himself, he was like, you will see what's going to happen in January 6th. They were fucking warning us all this time. So where the fuck was the National Guard? And where the fuck was
all the questions. Yep.
Right? They were exactly where they wanted to be, because it wasn't a bunch of brown and black people showing up. It was a bunch of white people showing up, and they wanted to fucking protect their own. Okay. Yeah. That's fucking, I don't want to hear about I don't understand white privilege. Well, look at what the fuck happened yesterday. That's fucking white privilege. That's it.
But people will still be like, I don't understand. What does white privilege mean? It's like,
you're just like, no, that's white privilege. Like right there. Yeah. You know what's white privilege? Me getting attacked under what was it, back in 2013? At the Beverly fucking Hill, the Beverly Mall, getting attacked by a crazy white woman spewing racial slurs at me. It's all caught on camera, right? It goes to not even a trial. It just goes to a judge who's going to decide if it's going to go to trial. They drag this out for a year, right? And then they let this woman go, not even a slap on the hand. That's white privilege. If I had done that to her,
forget about it.
They'd throw my ass in prison. They'd go after my family. They say that I've been a criminal. I probably have some terrorist ties. You know that. You know the fucking bullshit. So now, do you have any online shows going on? Like, where can people follow you? What do you got going on?
I think I have an online show for like a couple of organizations this month. I've been actually kind of laying low because I've been so right now I'm writing for, there's a film festival called Black Star Film Festival that's rooted in Philly, but they've moved everything online, and they started creating sort of like a morning show during their week of films, or however long the festival is. And now they're creating a late night with sketch and a whole bunch of stuff. So I've been like writing for that. Okay. Then I've also been, I'm also in this fellowship through USC where I'm working on ideas that I've been waiting on working on. So I'm not gigging as much because that's a whole nother brain. Sure. I'm just kind of gigging if it's like, okay.
You're just creating stuff. You're just creating content.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that's wonderful. Where can is that your D-Local Kid everywhere? Twitter, Instagram, everywhere?
YouTube, Instagram, all of that. Yep.
Love it. Well, Dilo, this was great. I mean, I've known you for a while, but this was like this kind of in-depth, which is
a deep dive.
Yeah, the deep dive that I love to have. So this was great. Well, stay safe out there, my friend.
Thank you too, Mona. Sending you love.
I love you too. Take care. Bye. That was the lovely Dilo. I know you guys had a good time because I know I had a great time. And I always love talking to Dilo. You guys, I will be back tomorrow with a brand new guest. If you haven't followed me on my YouTube channel, please do. It would mean the world to me. You can go to youtube.com/Mona Sheikh Comedian. Also, I'm having a very special request. If you can go and subscribe to my channel, and you can just run my playlist from Mona's Rants and Minority Reports podcast. I'm 2/3 of the way there for my watch hours on YouTube before it gets monetized. And if you guys can just click play all on the playlist for Mona's Rants and Minority Reports, I just need to make up some of the time watch hours. It would mean the world to me. You guys, I'm just trying to get to monetizing it. As you guys know, I've lost 90% of my income, no thanks to the pandemic. So I'm trying to find other ways to do this. Well, James said, thanks, Mona and Dilo. Thank you, James, as always. You guys, I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Stay safe out there. Don't be like the fucking assholes who stormed Capitol Hill. Good night.